Today's guest on A Life and a Living is Mike Arnold. Now, Mike is the author of a book that has just been recently published called Slacking Off, A Successful Way of Working from Home. Now, how timely is that? Now, he's very honest about the fact that he actually started writing it in 2018 and didn't finish until after COVID had started. But I think the relevance really does hit home. And he talks about kind of the mindset that you need to adopt, but also how you can really embrace the calendar and use the calendar to make yourself really, really effective and really efficient, but also to manage your attention and manage your energy. So it's very timely, very valuable, and there's great content in the book, great lessons in the book. And I really would encourage you to listen to Mike and take from it the tips that you actually get from him, and also to go and buy the book. But also really appreciate, because we're trying to get to a wider audience, if you can give us a review on iTunes and elsewhere, we really would appreciate that, because that does help us to get to a wider audience. But in the meantime, sit back and enjoy Mike Arnold. Mike, thank you so much indeed for joining us here on the podcast. It's a real honor to have you.
It's an honor to be here, John. Thanks.
Well, that's great. All the way, they're sitting in sunny Florida.
That's right.
You're from Las Vegas. Well, sunny Las Vegas as well, but it's sunny Florida at this moment in time. Maybe before we get into, because I want to talk about, because your book is so topical. I mean, you talk about timing. You know, the book Slacking Off, A Successful Way of Working from Home. I mean, God, you couldn't have written a more pertinent book at this moment in time. But maybe before we get talking about the book, maybe just give people a little bit of a kind of a story of your own background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, am a work from home entrepreneur, and I've come from multiple careers in finance, business, marketing, sales, automotive, I guess corporate strategy. And, over the years I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of professionals, whether they're other executives or CEOs or CFOs, lots of C-suite experience, working with heads of industry. And, what led me to create this or write this was I was constantly coaching some of my closest friends, which became my clients and my partners through the different industries I was in. And I was constantly trying to help them get out of things because they didn't manage their day properly, or ultimately because they didn't hold themselves accountable. And nobody wants to point the finger at themselves and say, you're doing something wrong, even though somewhere along the lines, we all kind of do that to ourselves, I guess. And so I kind of wanted to just create a better way for us to manage our day, manage the things that come in and take our attention off of what we need to do, and then just have a more controlled by yourself time,
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately just confronting that is the biggest part, is just confronting your time.
Because obviously, I mean, you because you've been working from home for a long time, for many
15
people,
plus, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, COVID was the kind of the first time. I mean, yeah, they might have kind of worked a half day at home, but full time at home. COVID is probably the first experience of doing that. And so, I mean, all of the pitfalls, the things that do it. So what do you see as being kind of the most common pitfalls that people fall into when they start working from home?
I just want to say something really fast about something you said just a minute ago about the timing. I actually started writing this in 2018, way before this, and I didn't finish it. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I was really just I felt guilty that I didn't finish the book. Every month after, I think April, I was just like, man, you really need to finish this, because I was at the tail end. So I'll have to apologize for anybody who gets the game now and could have before. But I think, just to further answer your question on pitfalls, I'd say it's really just the things that you don't notice. It's really the things that you don't notice. And it's not that I think anybody should be really over zealous on time and paying attention to every minute and being, over significant and critical and worried about their time. But it's just more about representing yourself the way you feel you should by recognizing when you're slipping, and I think that truly, honestly, it's the little things that add up over a full day that actually make most people that I've seen lose a lot of time. Some people are great at this and they just work. And at the end of the day, they're done and they feel great about that. And some people work. And at the end of the day, they don't feel done because they feel like they're missing something or they didn't do that one task or whatever that may be. And I found that it has to do with the fact that they let their attention slip in little ways throughout the day. And that usually is what makes somebody feel like they've not finished something because they've kind of slacked off in a way that obviously to the negative. So that really is ultimately the number one thing, is just letting time slip away in little tiny ways that you don't pay attention to.
And what's your recommendation for that? Because I mean, that's I can understand that. That's kind of a common, and then people start to kind of beat themselves up over it because but it's also managing that attention span, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing, here in Florida, there's a lot of people that are active. They're out, they're moving, all ages. They're constantly out. Like you see people on the street, on bikes, walking, doing things nonstop. In Las Vegas, it's not that way. Las Vegas, it's the only time you see people is on the strip of Las Vegas, the famous Las Vegas strip, where everybody's in a casino, walking around, playing something. But normally people are on their devices and their attention's getting pulled in like 100 different directions. So it just leaves people in this position where they're left wanting without paying attention to what's occurring. And my recommendation really is read my book. The first part of the book is called Your Slack Off Day, where you literally just do everything but work. You have to actually avoid work at all costs on a work day, of course, assuming that if your employer is allowing it, you want to be honest. But there's a really good reason. You want to avoid work at all costs. And the only thing you have to do is write down what you do. That's it. You don't have to write down, you don't have to put it on a calendar. You just, for yourself, you create a list of the things that you do when you're slacking off. That's it. And how long it takes you. And then the next day, you essentially look at that list and you put it right in front of you so that while you're working, you know exactly what you consider slacking off, and you can't relent at that point. You can't go backwards and say, oh, that's not slacking off, because obviously you wrote the list. It's your list. I didn't write it for you.
Right.
So at the end of the day, what that does for you is it actually helps you to notice that maybe you didn't make enough time for yourself during that day. Maybe you need to make more time at the end of the day, but also just helps you notice what you need, because slacking off is sometimes a sign that you need more personal time for yourself. Could be a lot of different things, of course. Could be that you don't understand what you're reading. Sometimes, misunderstood words and things like that. Reading something that you don't fully get will have your attention fleeting. But ultimately, it's just giving yourself more time to actually handle and invest in yourself, whether that's just enjoyment, like pleasure time, right? Whatever that may be.
Okay. So you talk about make scheduling work for you. That's something that you say. What do you mean by that? And how do you actually make scheduling work for you?
So I'm gonna start this foundation of this explanation with I hated the calendar with a passion early in my career. I avoided it at all costs. I would get told, I would get spoken to about it over and over again. Management, seniors, mentors, use your calendar, use your calendar. I don't know where or why, but I thought that if you use your calendar, then that means you're not artistically managing your day, and you're not shooting from the hip, and you're not being spontaneous. And if you're really good at everything you do, you don't need a calendar. You can remember everything. Right? I got it all up here. What I found is that basically that was not true. It was just some sort of pushback of understanding a calendar, because it's complicated to some people. So ultimately, what I found is using a calendar for reasons that I care about first, not work. If I had a job and I was avoiding it, right, then clearly it's not the most important thing to me. It's just a job. And then from there, using the calendar to completely master what's mine, which is my time. I mean, at the end of the day, what the full lead up to at the end of the book, which I'll kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, is that the person who goes through all the exercises and steps in the book, by the end, will know by heart what matters in a moment and what doesn't. And they use their calendar to do that. And what's beautiful is your calendar is like your best friend. That is your assistant. I mean, I don't know if you ever had a Pocket Pilot. Do you remember those? Palm Pilot?
That's going back a few years. Yeah, but I do
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yes.
So I remember having a Palm Pilot, and honestly, just to be completely upfront and vulnerable here, I didn't use it for anything but playing games. That's all I did. And I wish I could say.
I don't think you're alone in that, Mike, to be honest with you.
But it was cool to have one, you know, it was like a cell phone. And so I think ultimately, you know, using different tools for scheduling and making sure that you know, we have a proper foundation for a calendar is really the best possible way to jump in to managing yourself and managing your day properly. And honestly, the book is really set up to make sure somebody can do that easily. And it just takes them step by step into that time management ability. And honestly, confronting every moment of things that you do in a day is something that a lot of people aren't doing at all. It's like, I don't know if you ever heard about Dave Ramsey talking about, you know, look at your checkbook, or Tony Robbins talk about count actually every dollar or every cent that you spend. It actually works the same way with time. If you really think about it, when I actually go and I consult businesses, which I do very frequently, I help businesses very frequently cut time and costs and get more efficient. It's very easy for me, because all I really do is look at everything they do and how much exactly that time takes down to the second. And then I look for ways to make the things that take the longest faster. That's it.
Right.
And better. And most people don't have the patience for that. And that's all I'm helping people do with their time in this book, is I'm helping them really strategically look at themselves and create their own little program, if you will, that they're going to follow. And I do it in a way that it's not hard to confront, I guess you could say.
So for many, one of the things that I find the work that I do is that many executives are saying, well, you know, I'm kind of spending my day back to back with meetings on, you know, Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever it might be. And, you know, and I'm finding it very difficult to kind of separate my workday from my personal time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What's your advice and suggestions to people who are, because I mean, that's a real situation. This is not a makey-uppy. You know, this is a real situation. What's your suggestion and recommendation to people who have got that issue or challenge?
So, you know, it kind of goes back to confronting, right? I mean, honestly, I've been the machine. I can work 15 hours a day, John. I can work 15 hours a day and literally feel no problems. I can do meetings until 11 o'clock at night with zero issues and still feel just as energized at the end of the day as I do in the beginning of the day. And some days I can do one meeting and be done, right? And it all has to do with what you know you need. I mean, I think, forgive me because I don't know the origin of this, but like know thyself is I think it's a Scottish or Irish saying or something along the lines there. It's really important that you recognize yourself first and what you actually need, because that's what makes you the best. It's not always overworking. It's not always doing more. It's about knowing yourself and utilizing your strengths and weaknesses as a person. And really, it just comes down to, again, you know, using the priority list. At the end of this whole book, there's a way for someone to basically write down everything they do in a day, business and personal, how long it takes, and what's important. And there's a 3-tier system that literally helps them to manage what's important and what's not. And so, for instance, just to mention your specific question, somebody has back-to-back meetings, but they also have a personal life, kids, wife, husband, whatever that may be. And they're stuck in a situation where they're never complete on one of those situations, like one of the, whether it's work or life, or I guess not work or life, but home or work, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, that just has to do with the fact that the person hasn't prioritized what matters and what doesn't matter in a specific instance. You and I are on a podcast right now. If somebody called me, that's not going to matter, right? Unless it's an absolute emergency. You know, one of my children had some sort of, how would I know that, right? There's very few things that automatically we know won't take precedence, right? But because you and I are interacting, it's totally different. But for instance, if I had some, $2-3 million deal that needed me to pick up that phone, I might pick it up, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing, like knowing those things sometimes are automatic and sometimes it's not that heavy, right? It's not that serious. But honestly, we get faced with tasks every day that we're doing by ourselves that we allow people to take our attention from, and it makes us less efficient. And those things pile up every single day for most of us, even for ourselves, whether it's doing laundry or cooking lunch or in a meeting that you have to drive to versus a meeting you have to be on Zoom. There's all these things. And so another foundational piece is just having the purpose, right? Knowing why you're doing what you're doing. I think that's a huge, huge thing. A big part of this is that I recommend that everybody kind of realign themselves with why they do what they do.
Yeah.
Right. Every day. It's not easy
because it is the context for everything, isn't it? I mean, if you're not clear on that, you don't. It's a bit like you don't know where your kind of your guiding star is. You don't really know where you're going with it. One of the things you talk about, and I do think this is a big challenge for people. I was going to say in the corporate world, but not exclusively in the corporate world, but it's the whole thing about saying no.
Yeah. This is a tough one for me because, I hesitated to actually put this in because it's so misconstrued. And so I can't be there to coach everybody on this specific point beyond what I wrote, right? I'm saying no to things that don't directly contribute to the current task. I get a phone call from my friend. I'm in the middle of something that I'm doing to help organize my day or finishing a report or doing something between meetings. Some people will just pick up the call and just talk and give their friend 10% attention and 90% to what they're doing. That 10% is where your attention gets stuck. And then at the end of the day, you feel like you didn't do something fully because you didn't give something your full attention. See, it's honestly about personal integrity. It's about personal integrity. Know yourself, know what you consider and you agree to do, right? You agree to do your job, you agree to do these things. And it's just like anything else. If you hire somebody to do something and they do 90% of it, you're not going to be happy, right? So you just want to be the person you expect to be. And so saying no to the things that you know are honestly things you shouldn't be doing at that moment. And it truly isn't just black and white.
Yeah,
it truly is.
I think also it's because I mean I work with a lot of people in the whole space of leadership, and I think to come back to the point that you're making there, Mike, as well, is that if you can't lead yourself, you're unlikely to be able to lead others, right?
That's right.
And I think that comes back to the point that you're making there. In terms of the, as I said, okay, it's interesting that you did start writing the book in 2018, and then what happened in the last year and a half. But when you look at the situation where people are now, and this is going to be whatever version is going to be a hybrid version or whatever it might be, but people working from home, what they need to do in your opinion, what do they need to do in order to set themselves up for success in working from home?
Well, to plug my own book, I'd say read my book and actually go through the exercises. But I'm not a big cheerleader of, bully yourself into things. I'm a big cheerleader of make a decision, move forward. Don't be stuck in between, make a decision. A lot of this is confront yourself first, confront your time personally, then confront work, and then make sure that you have a roadmap for yourself on what you believe is right for yourself on the things you do daily. Automated is fun when you're not paying attention. It's fun when you don't have to really think about it and you're just kind of doing it and you still get things done. In the book, I explain very heavily about how many times I was able to shoot from the hip and still achieve massive results, right? But ultimately, I have never, ever been able to do more in a day than when I actually use my calendar properly and set myself up that way. I mean, listen, I made so many mistakes. I've definitely had very close calls. I've had very, very different situations than most people will ever face ever. But I've also seen professionals that are literally just drinking themselves to death, some of them doing drugs and all kinds of different things just so that they can maintain their work-life balance. That's how dramatically crazy it gets. And so when you're left to your own devices, you're left to your own time and managing your day, things can get very, very out of hand for yourself. And only you would know that. Yeah. The people around you aren't going to see that unless they're there, of course, which I happen to be there for quite a few of, some of the most intelligent, amazing professionals I've ever met, who are great in one aspect, but horrible in another. And that's not everybody. I've seen great professionals too. But the ones that were really good, I just thought to myself, like, they're basically slowly killing themselves because they are miserable in one area of their life and they're just not handling it, right? It's not perfect either, but it's definitely something I wanted to help handle. Most people working from home right now are doing that, right? They're right now, after being forced to work from home last year, are starting to face who they really are right at this point, right now. And so, especially if they didn't work from home before April last year or January last year, right? That's the key. The key is not what happens in the beginning when you're happy. You're like, yes, this is great. I can work from home and I can do whatever I want and I can be half dressed and half this and ready to go to the gym and everything else. It's about what happens later when the smoke settles, the awe, if you will, starts to fade and you start to realize that this is your life now. And you now are given a lot of freedom. And of course, you want to make sure that you use it properly. That's all. You use it for yourself properly, not just your employer or what you're doing.
It comes back to personal choice and personal decisions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it does. Mike, I think you've written, I say, talk about timing. It's perfect. I think the message you got, I think the content you have is really, really good. Before I tell you where everybody can get in touch with you, two questions I ask everybody. One, a book other than your own that you've read that's had an impact. What's the book? What was the impact?
Well, there's really one that I really enjoy, which is Never Split the Difference, which is a negotiation book that I really like because, the writer, Chris, I think is his name, is really, it's really just amazing. He wrote an incredible book. And I think for business, it's just a good overall negotiation book. And then what was the second question?
The second question is daily rituals. What daily rituals do you have and how do they serve you?
Yes. Honestly, other than coffee in the morning, I really do something recently that I didn't write in the book because it's not from my daily ritual. I actually write my goals in the morning and at night, my big goals, the big things I want to achieve. I don't always do it, but I'm starting to do that more. And I really think, we create our day, we create our time. And I really think that's important. It's not easy for me to do that personally, but I do that. Calendar, make sure my calendar is set up properly throughout my day. I look before I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning, and that's a big help for me. So I don't have to think about it. I educate myself every day. I study every single day. If I don't study in a day, I'm definitely missing something. I'm studying whether it's, spirituality or whether it's, something for myself or for my business. I study every single day. I never miss a day. Because again, the investment you make in yourself is amazing. And then of course there's other things, I try to exercise every day, things like that. But yeah, I think that should give a pretty proper.
That's good discipline. Good discipline on that. I love the learning every day. I think that's really powerful. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Mike, this has been fantastic. Where can people get in touch with you? We'll put it all in the show notes, but if they're listening, where can they get in touch with you and where can they get the book?
And it's been my pleasure, John. Really, this has been great for me. So Facebook, obviously, there's the Facebook page, Slacking Off Book. There's an Instagram. They can get in touch with me in either of those places. You can obviously buy the book on Amazon only. at least until I do the future courses that I'm going to do, video courses to help people go through the exercises. But that's basically where Amazon, Instagram, Facebook, some Twitter.
Great. Okay, we'll put it all up there. Mike, thank you so much indeed. It's been a real pleasure to have you. I really enjoyed the conversation. And
Thank you, John.
I just think it's so timely. So thank you for being here.
Beautiful. Thanks.